Thank you for coming to join us today for our Finance and Economic Development Standing Committee. Madam Clerk, if you would do the chamber evacuation announcements, please, at this time. Thank you.
Upon activation of emergency alarm signal, all persons should immediately exit the building. Please use exits to the left, right, or front of the council chamber or the east or west stairwell outside the rear doors of the chamber. Do not use elevators or escalators. After exiting the building, proceed down the 9th Street and enter the assembly area located in the former public safety building parking lot. Able persons should assist visually and hearing impaired visitors with exiting the building. Persons wishing to speak during the public comment period and all public hearings are generally allowed 3 minutes to speak. Persons appearing before the committee are not allowed to campaign for public office, promote private business ventures, use language of a personal nature, which also demeans any person, including comments directed at public officials or staff members that are not related to their official duties or just to question staff members directly. All questions to be directed to the committee chair. Failure to adhere to the guidelines may result in speakers forfeiting any minute time and for disciplinary action as necessary, which could include barring from attendance at future meetings of the committee for a period of 6 months. Madam Chair, this concludes the announcements.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Do we have any persons present or online that have signed up for the public comment period?
Is there anyone here present today that would like to provide comment for items not on today's agenda? Seeing none, the public comment period is now closed, and we had no virtual speakers that signed up prior to the 10 a.m. deadline.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We will deal with the approval of the minutes.
The minutes to be approved from the April 16th, 2025 Finance and Economic Development Standing Committee meeting. If there are no amendments or corrections, then those meeting minutes stand approved as presented. Those minutes have been approved.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We will proceed with the papers in the order that they are presented, with the exception that we're going to start with agenda item number 2. I'm hoping that Bobby Vincent from the Department of Public Works will join us to speak to agenda item number 1.
Item 2, Ordinance 2025-097, to amend the FY25 General Fund budget by increasing anticipated revenues from certain funds granted to the city from the Regents of the University of California in the amount of $25,000 and appropriating such increased revenues to the Commonwealth Attorney Office for the purpose of partnering with prosecutors to reduce racial disproportionalities project. That paper is before the committee.
Good afternoon. Thank you for letting me address council and this committee. My name is Colette Wallace McKeechin. I'm the elected Commonwealth's attorney for the city of Richmond. I'm happy to answer any questions regarding our support of the passing of this ordinance. I have with me Deputy Commonwealth's Attorney Mike Holloman, who was the lead contact between our office and Professor John Gould, who contacted our office to ask if we would participate in an anonymized project to determine the use of plea agreement decisions and how they affected racial outcomes in prosecution. I thought that was a worthwhile thing for our office to be involved in, that involved his coming with some of his associates to interview a number of our prosecutors, taking time from their schedules where they would otherwise be in court, meeting with witnesses, and actually working on the prosecution of violent crime cases and other cases. And so as a part of the contract, Professor Gould and the university recognized that the prosecutors who took time from their normal workload should be compensated for that time, and that is the cost of the $25,000. And so that is why it is that amount. There was a contract signed by me and obviously vetted by the city in 2024. All of these conversations happened in 2024. The paper is not yet approved by whoever the peer review entities are for the professor. But obviously, once that paper is reviewed, I will present it to City Council and the public. Mr. Holloman may be able to answer any more detailed questions from council or anyone, but that is why I would request that council pass that ordinance.
Thank you, Madam Commonwealth. I appreciate the overview of this paper. Hopefully, it will add value to the work that you all are doing for the city. We're grateful for the work that you're doing. You have any questions, Ms. Jones? Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, we have a public hearing on this paper.
Is there anyone here present that would like to speak in support of item 2? Please approach the podium and state your name for the record.
Yeah, for the right one. Good afternoon, Tremaine Johnson.
Could you move the mic up closer to your, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon. My name is Tremaine Johnson, and I'm the lead organizer with SEIU 32BJ. On behalf of our union and Richmond City contracted janitorial and security workers, I want to first thank the council for acknowledging the importance of raising wage standards for those who keep our city running. We deeply appreciate your ongoing.
Is this in regards to item 2, ordinance 2025-097?
For the budget?
No, we're on the public hearing right now for item 2, ordinance 2025-097. It sounds like you want to speak in regards to the resolution that is on the agenda. But right now, we're on item number 2. If you would like to come back and provide comment for that resolution, then you may.
Okay. Is that 5? 11? Thank you.
Thank you. But you're more than welcome to come back to provide your comment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Is there anyone here that would like to speak in opposition of item 2? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Bring it back to the committee.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to move forward to council for approval.
Okay, I'll second that motion. Madam Clerk?
The committee is voting on the motion to forward item 2, ordinance 2025-097 to council with a recommendation to approve. Vice Chair Jones?
Aye.
Chair Robinson?
Aye.
That motion has been approved.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Number 3.
Would you like me to proceed? All right.
Number 3.
Item 3, ordinance 2025-098, to accept funds in the amount of $160,000 from the Virginia Department of Forestry and to amend the FY25 special fund budget by creating a new special fund for the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Community Facilities called the Tree Maintenance Team for East End and Evergreen Cemeteries for the purpose of funding a tree maintenance team and ongoing care for the East End and Evergreen Cemeteries. That paper is before the committee.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Councilperson Shamar Young, Deputy Director Parks Cemeteries for the City of Richmond. I'm here to answer any questions that you all might have about this proposal.
Want to elaborate a little bit and tell us what it is so we
Yes,
can
ma'am.
ask that question?
We are proposing to accept a grant from the Virginia Department of Forestry in the amount of $160,000 that will help us to maintain the tree canopy there. Again, there's invasive species overgrowth. They have done a study for us, updated a study last fall to help us map out a maintenance plan. In addition, this is also qualified under their workforce initiative. So we will have an opportunity to train individuals how to properly eradicate invasive species and to properly care for trees, in addition to properly care for these sacred spaces.
Ms. Jones, you have any questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Public hearing, Madam Clerk.
Is there anyone here present that would like to speak in support of item 3? Is there anyone here that would like to speak in opposition of item 3? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Bring it back to the committee.
Motion, Madam Chair, to forward to council for approval.
Second.
The committee is voting on the motion to forward item 3, ordinance 2025-098, to council with the recommendation to approve. Vice Chair Jones.
Aye.
Chair Robinson.
Aye.
That motion has been approved.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We move to agenda item number 4.
Item 4, ordinance 2025-099, to amend city code for the purpose of establishing a disposable plastic bag tax. That paper is before the committee.
Hi, good afternoon. Laura Thomas, Director of the Office of Sustainability. Happy to be here with you all today to present this item. The city is proposing to move forward a proposal to implement a plastic bag fee throughout the city. This is something that the state enabled several years ago. 10 other localities within the state have already adopted this. This would go into effect on January 1, 2026, if passed this summer, to give a 6-month time period for outreach, engagement, and education for both businesses that might be impacted as well as community members. There would be extensive conversations with those businesses in an effort to help educate them on how to go about this process. It's self-reporting. It goes through the state. So it is administered by the state Department of Tax, not the city. The state then reimburses the city on a monthly basis based on the total allocation of those bags. So it is 5 cents per bag, 4 pennies going to the city, 1 penny going to the businesses. So the businesses are able to create revenue through this process. So it is helpful for them. And then to the community members, we'll be distributing significant numbers of plastic reusable bags. So they don't have to actually purchase the plastic bags if they do not choose to engage in that. And then the revenue generated from this program, very specifically stated in state code what that can be used for, essentially litter cleanups, environmental and litter waste education, as well as distributing reusable bags to folks on SNAP and WIC. So the city will, we estimate based on other localities that in year 1 will receive a little less than $400,000, and then starting in year 2 around $100,000 to $150,000. That is, of course, an estimate. We do not have specific programming built for those funds. Again, it's very limited what we're allowed to use those funds for, but we will take the next several months to engage in conversations with all the appropriate stakeholders to determine what that will be utilized for. January 1, 2026. So we wouldn't receive funding until February, essentially, because it's a report that these businesses already provide on a monthly basis to the state. It's just an additional line on that. So it'll go on a monthly recurring basis. Thank you.
Question, Ms. Jones?
Yes, I just one question. Did you give a timeline on when you were planning to start the outreach to the businesses and the community?
Once this is adopted, we'll provide that. We'll create and provide a timeline and distribute that publicly. It will be across the entire community, and we'll have dedicated opportunities to partner with economic development, going face to face to convenience stores throughout the community. Those are going to be the most impacted. And the big box stores, grocery stores, and your Targets and Walmarts and whatnot. Those are the other impacted businesses, but they do this in other jurisdictions already. So we're really going to be focusing on those smaller mom and pop shops and reaching out to them.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
The hearing.
Is there anyone here that would like to speak in support of item 4? Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition of item 4? Seeing none, the public hearing is not closed. Bring it back to the committee.
Madam Clerk, Madam Chair, move that we forward to council for approval.
Second.
The committee is voting on the motion to forward item 4, ordinance 2025-099, to council with the recommendation to approve. Vice Chair Jones.
Aye.
Chair Robinson.
Aye.
That motion has been approved.
Thank you. Agenda item number 5, Madam Clerk.
Item 5, ordinance 2025-100, to amend city code concerning the form of the budget submitted to council to require publication of a side-by-side comparison with the mayor's proposed budget for the purpose of requiring submission of agency-level budget request documents. That paper is before the committee.
Good afternoon. I'm Lauren Kirk, Senior Manager with the Department of Budget. The administration is requesting a continuance on this paper to continue further discussions within the aspects of the broader budget process.
Okay, thank you. Amy?
Thank you. I believe Councilmember Lynch is trying to log on as well. Amy Robbins, 5th District Liaison to Councilmember Lynch. She talked to President Newbill, and she is also favorable for continuing it for 30 days to have further conversations. Do you see her online?
Yes, she's on.
Can she participate as just speaking to the legislation, but not voting?
She can, yeah, she can, yes, she can speak as, she did not sign up to speak virtually.
She got
as a
held up
committee
with a
member,
day job. Apologies.
But when we have the public hearing, she can speak to it as well.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Okay. Madam Clerk, my understanding is she can speak to the paper as the patron, as a patron of the paper.
That's correct. She
Yeah,
can't provide.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Um, Chairwoman Robertson, I apologize. I'm actually on my way to chambers. I got held up at work. But did you want me to speak to the paper? Is that appropriate? I know I can't vote on the paper, but.
Yes, you may.
Okay. Yeah, so this has been in discussion for several years. I believe the impetus for this was at a council retreat 3 years ago when we were talking about our ability to really gain a better line of sight into the budget generally. And I think you all have seen, during this process, and certainly Councilmember Robertson, you've been on council for a number of years, that the mayor has and the administration has a pretty substantial purview over what makes it into the budget. And when the budget gets to us as council members, there really isn't, a whole lot of tinkering that we can do. And that's for a myriad of reasons, but primarily because there is a lot of work that happens on the administration side between the months of August, September, when that budget is being visioning, when departments are submitting their submissions to the mayor's office, to the point where the budget is finalized, solidified, and then introduced to us. There's months worth of work that happens that we don't necessarily have a line of sight into. And so an executive branch forms a government like this, and I see this in state budgets all across the country that have kind of this executive branch form of government, where you have an executive branch who really is responsible for crafting the budget, having the ability to have transparency and line of sight earlier into what those not only what the department submissions are, but then line item by line item, what is funding requests that are new, what are what are the FTE positions that are being either requested or still vacant. So we would get a line of sight into that much earlier on, let's say in September or October, when these submissions are being done, as opposed to having, the 2 to 3 weeks that we've got to get the budget and to look at everything in full. And so this has been a practice of a lot of, in our state government, the Commonwealth, they made this shift about 22 years ago, to require the agencies to submit their legislation, the agencies to submit their agency budget submissions, and post them on the Department of Planning and Budget website. So, you can go on there today and see, all of the agency submissions, the justification for why they've asked for that new funding request, the amount. It's all right there for you, and that gives, advocates, stakeholders, and certainly, legislators, our Virginia State Legislature, the ability to really walk alongside the governor in the process of crafting that budget. And that's kind of the spirit of this, and the intent behind this measure, is that it would give us a longer line of sight, a deeper line of sight into the budget, long before it's introduced to us. And I think that would help us with the process, in a lot of different ways. But it would help, if you think about, some of the challenges that we have in our own budgeting process, that would solve a lot of different issues at the same time, and allow us to get working on things a lot sooner. So that's the spirit of the legislation. The the reason why, I think we're asking for the 30-day continuance is so that we can have that legislation out there and available for consideration for the administration, so that it can be included in the subsequent budget year and the subsequent budget process. It currently has 6 co-patrons. I think, we've spoken about it at length. Councilmember Robertson, Chairwoman Robertson, happy to continue talking about it. But I mean, I think it really is a measure that's going to take us forward in the process.
Thank you, Ms. Lynch. There's a request for the paper to be continued. Did you respond to that?
Yeah, I'm amenable to the paper being continued for 30 days. I think that's where we landed.
Let me make sure I'm hearing you correctly. Are you saying that you support the paper being continued for 30 days? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you for your comments. We will have a public hearing, and we may have some other questions that we would like to follow up as well.
Is there anyone here present that would like to speak in support of item 5? Is there anyone here that would like to speak in opposition of item 5? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Bring it back to the committee.
So, Ms. Lynch, are you still there? Councilwoman Lynch? We've had some detailed discussion about this paper, and we are fully aware of the mission that is at hand. And certainly during our entire budget process this year, we talked a lot about looking at ways to improve the process that we are currently using to put together the upcoming budget. The chair, Council President Newbill, has asked Vice Chair Jordan and myself to be established as a subcommittee to work with the administration, with all of council, and others as we deem necessary to pull together a revised strategy and proposal to present back to the council, I think by September. And what we were hoping that we would be able to consider your proposed legislation as a part of that workforce strategy, with the idea of answering a lot of the challenges and questions that you've mentioned as a part of your presentation, which will not be concluded in 30 days, but we will be doing incremental presentation back to the full council as to where we are, what decisions have been made, so that we would get the buy-in from the entire council as we move through the process with the intention of making a final decision by September. Would you object to us continuing this paper to be a part of that work session, which will be longer than 30 days?
Sure. Just for point of clarification, I mean, if the so you all are going to form this work group and then come back to us in September, correct?
We will meet with the administration and others as it relates to doing the reform process for the budget. But we have stages, which we will present that to the full council so that everybody on council knows exactly what we're doing. And there will be incremental reports back to council as to where we are, so that by the time we finalize it, everybody will have seen the total recommendation before it comes back to council. And we feel very strongly that your paper and the patrons of this paper have made some very strong recommendation, which we will absolutely consider as a part of this entire process, and would hopefully be able to incorporate that in our work sessions and discussion and reporting back to council. I would assume that we would probably be making a report back to council at least every 30 days or so to let us know exactly where we are. And if it's sometime in that process you feel like you want to pull the paper out of that work session and move forward with it, certainly that would be an opportunity to do that. But at this time, what I'm asking as part of the task force and the chair of the finance committee, if we could put a continuation on this paper through August, mid-August, considering the fact we're going to get the 30-day report, rather than voting on this in the midst of us trying to work out a holistic strategy, if you would, and consider supporting us in working through that effort.
Sure. I think it's likely to, and I need to look at the current legislation has an implementation date of January 15th. So that would that would effectively put us into the next budget year. So I guess just being mindful of, if we go, well, we've got 6 patrons, we've got support. Hypothetically, we could go forward with this paper now today, but if we wait on the committee, we make it we envelop it as a part of that work. I guess the question is, could we, let's say we vote for this in September, could the administration have that in place for the following budget year, or will we have to wait a whole nother year for this to go into implementation? I think it's just a matter of like when will we actually want to implement, the policy. But yeah, I hear you. I would like to keep this as an option to pull out, and make sure that we address it, and if possible, vote on it, certainly before, if not September, before September, so that we can actually get the benefit of its intent, of its purpose for the next budget year. That'd be my only caveat there.
Right, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, we've had public hearing on this paper.
Yes, ma'am.
All righty. Okay, so if I'm understanding Ms. Lynch correctly, and I would say, I don't know, Madam Clerk, whether or not there is any possibility that we could work with our sound system to see if we can get electronic call-ins a little bit clearer than without as much interference in being able to hear what people are saying a lot clearer. I don't know if there's any correction, but certainly if we could look into the possibility of that, that would be helpful. Ms. Gibson.
Thank you, Councilwoman Robertson. I just want to express, so as I understand, I'm in support of the paper, as you know, and I appreciate the interest in working on all these budget things collectively. And so I support doing that, but if I'm understanding the point Councilwoman Lynch made, I do think it is important to ensure that it is implemented in time to provide the benefit in our next budget cycle. I think for all of the things that we're talking about and plan to talk about, the goal is that when we come back to the table and are looking at the next fiscal year budget, that we have a new process in place and can benefit from those things. So I support whatever the timing is for this particular paper to be adopted in time to do just that.
Appreciate your comments. Ms. Jones, do you have any comments in regards to this? That I am going to suggest that, what is this? This is May, June, July. We had suggested that we would continue the paper for 90 days, but let's continue it for 60 days, find out where we are. And if it's necessary to continue it for a few more days or a month, we will make that decision based on where we are. And I think that's a good benchmark for us to assess ourselves as to where we are and what progress we've made. And Ms. Lynch, that will certainly give you plenty of opportunity to make a decision at that time as to whether or not you want to move forward in the absence of the committee's recommendation, or you would be satisfied with where we are and recognize that we will get to the desired outcome that the entire council would support. And so if with that, Madam Clerk, I would like to offer a motion to continue this paper for 60 days. Second. 60 days, yes.
The committee is voting on the motion to continue item 5, ordinance 2025-100 to the July 16th, 2025 Finance and Economic Development Standing Committee meeting. Vice Chair Jones.
Aye.
Chair Robinson.
Aye.
That motion has been approved.
Madam Clerk, next agenda items, please.
Item 6, ordinance 2025-107, to accept funds in the amount of $75,000 from the Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services and to designate funds of $25,000 in the City Sheriff General Fund budget and to amend the FY25 Special Fund budget for the City Sheriff called DCJS JAG Vehicle Camera Special Fund by including the total amount of $100,000 for the purpose of equipping the city sheriff's fleet vehicles with camera equipment. That paper is before the committee.
Madam Sheriff, it's always great to see you.
Good to see you as well, ma'am. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Ms. Jones, Ms. Gibson, other members of council, other members of the committee. We're before you today because we would like the city administration to accept the grant of $75,000 in order for us to place in-car cameras into our fleet of vehicles to continue to improve the manner in which we work with the individuals that we transport, life, health, and safety, to ensure that things that happen can be properly recorded and we can account for those things that may happen or may not happen during any transports. We do have the money in our fund for the match of $25,000 at this particular time, and we would not need anything else from you all at this particular time.
Thank you, Madam Sheriff. Appreciate the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Appreciate you all.
Ms. Jones, you have any questions in regards to this
I don't.
paper?
Thank
you
you.
very much. Madam Clerk, we have a public hearing on this paper, please.
Is there anyone here present that would like to speak in support of item 6? Is there anyone here present that would like to speak in opposition of item 6? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Bring it back to the committee.
Madam Chair, motion to approve. Motion
Second.
to council to approve.
Second.
The committee is voting on the motion to forward item 6, ordinance 2025-107, to council with a recommendation to approve. Vice Chair Jones, Chair Robinson.
Aye.
That motion has been approved.
Madam Clerk, did we agree that we're doing 7 and 8 as a block?
That is correct.
Would you call those papers, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Item 7, ordinance 2025-108, to accept $1.5 million from the Virginia Resources Authority for the purpose of funding the city's wastewater treatment plant thickening and dewatering facilities improvement project. Item 8, ordinance 2025-109, to execute a financing agreement between the city and the Virginia's Resources Authority for the purpose of funding the city's water treatment plant thickening and dewatering facilities improvements project. Those papers are before the committee.
Good afternoon, Billy Vaughn, Deputy Director of Finance for the Department of Public Utilities. These two papers before you today are a funding package that are being offered to the city from the Virginia Resources Authority, which is the administrator for the Virginia Clean Water Revolving Loan Fund. One paper, 2025-108, is a $1.5 million grant, and ordinance number 25-109 is a $28.5 million loan at a 0.5% interest rate with a 25-year repayment term. Combination of these two funding packages will support the thickening and dewatering project at the wastewater treatment plant and will significantly have savings for our ratepayers by reducing interest expense that we would normally incur by borrowing funds in the public market.
Question, Ms. Jones? Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, we'd have a public hearing on this.
Is there anyone here present that would like to speak in support of items 7 or 8? Is there anyone here that would like to speak in opposition of items 7 or 8? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Bring it back to the committee.
Madam Chair, motion to forward to council for approval.
Second.
The committee is voting on the motion to forward item 7, ordinance 2025-108, and item 8, ordinance 2025-109, to council with a recommendation to approve. Vice Chair Jones,
Aye.
Chair Robinson.
Aye.
That motion has been approved.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Agenda item 9 and 10, we're taking as a block as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Item 9, ordinance 2025-110, to execute a Richmond Ambulance Authority agreement between the city and RIA for the purpose of funding a peer recovery specialist project to combat the opioid crisis. Item 10, ordinance 2025-111, to execute a Health Brigade grant contract agreement between the city and Health Brigade for the purpose of funding the creation and implementation of a substance use disorder treatment program to combat the opioid crisis. Those papers are before the committee.
Good afternoon. Amy Popovich, DCAO for Human Services. Thank you for having me, President Robertson. These two are both out of the Opioid Abatement Authority funding. The first one from the Ambulance Authority is actually the 5th. The other 4 proposals for peer recovery specialists have already been approved. Additionally, the second one, which is a comprehensive harm reduction package for the Health Brigade. Health Brigade is a nonprofit free clinic in the city of Richmond who provides the actually only region's comprehensive harm reduction services to this area, and funding from the Opioid Abatement Authority would service them. I'm also joined here by Jason Alley, Policy Advisor for Substance Use Disorder Work, who can speak as well.
Good afternoon. How is everybody? Jason Alley. I'm a policy advisor in human services for our opioid crisis response, and happy to answer any questions that you guys have about these two papers.
If we have a public hearing on these two papers, please.
Is there anyone here that would like to speak in support of items 9 or 10? Is there anyone here that would like to speak in opposition of items 9 or 10? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Bring it back to the committee.
Madam Chair, motion to forward to council for approval.
Thank you. Second.
The committee is voting on the motion to forward item 9, ordinance 2025-110, and item 10, ordinance 2025-111, to council with the recommendation to approve. Vice Chair Jones?
Aye.
Chair Robinson?
Aye.
That motion has been approved.
Okay, Madam Clerk, let's do agenda item number 11.
Item 11, Resolution 2025-R019, to request that the CAO conduct a study of the fiscal, operational, and other considerations associated with requiring janitorial and security contractors under contract and pay the city's minimum wage of $20 per hour to their employees, and to provide the council with any recommendations for implementing such a requirement by November 1st, 2025.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Tremaine Johnson. I'm the lead organizer with SEIU 32BJ. On behalf of our union and Richmond City's contracted janitorial and security workers, I want to first thank the council for acknowledging the importance of raising wage standards for those who keep our city running. We deeply appreciate your ongoing efforts and commitment to raising standards and ensuring fairness and dignity for all workers providing essential services on behalf of the city. However, we must express our deep disappointment in the decision to convert the proposed budget amendment meant to raise the minimum wage for these essential workers into a study under Resolution 2025-R019. While we understand the intent behind this study, we are concerned about the lack of an urgent timeline. A study does not conclude by this summer risks unnecessary delays in delivering life-changing wage increases for the workers who need them most. We urge the City Council to take legislative action by passing a living wage ordinance by the end of this summer that expands the resolution and sets a pathway to work on funding in the fiscal year 2027 budget. City Council has already received thorough costing analysis from 32BJ showing that raising wages for contracted janitors and security guards will cost less than 0.05% of the city's budget. Further delay only withholds long overdue, life-changing wages from workers who need them most, many of whom earn 200% of the federal, who earn below 200% of the federal poverty line. It could mean their ability to pay rent, feed their family, or cover an emergency expense. This approach effectively balances the city of Richmond's budget on workers who can least afford it. It also denies the city sorely needed financial support from workers who are less able to provide support through taxes and local spending. We're standing here today because the contractor workers are fighting for better standards and a voice on the job through a union. We recommend that the study examines the requirements established to ensure the city hires responsible contractors. We urge you to act now by passing an ordinance this summer that guarantees a living wage for all city contractor workers and ensures their inclusion in the next city budget. These workers cannot afford to wait. We already know what the data will say. Livable wages are good for workers, good for the city, and good for Richmond's future. SEIU 32BJ is committed to working in partnership with the council, and we are ready to provide any resources or support necessary to make this a reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Appreciate your comments. Madam Clerk, is there anyone else to speak in support or opposition?
Is there anyone else present that would like to speak in support of item 11? Is there anyone here present that would like to speak in opposition of item 11? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Bring it back to the committee.
Okay. Ms. Jones? Ms. Gibson?
Thank you, Councilwoman Robertson. I want to acknowledge, thank you for the consideration of this paper, and because I want to acknowledge the true urgent need to support contracted employees who work in City Hall, especially our custodians and our security guards. As was shared in public comment, many of these workers are living in poverty. They rely on public assistance and are essentially one emergency away from losing their home. These workers have been employed or are being organized by 32BJ SEIU to essentially ensure fair working conditions. But unfortunately, it's my understanding that there is no contract because their employer has not agreed to fair and neutral process, and unfortunately, I believe have been avoiding meeting to delay the process. So, I'm proud to live in a city that supports workers, and I appreciate our ongoing efforts as a body to support ensuring that workers have a living wage. I am concerned that with the paper as it's currently written, we'll end up with a study that could tell us, that it's cost prohibitive to do. And so to do that, my hope is that we can amend this paper to include the study to include how we can revisit our procurement process to prioritize and support companies that employ unionized labor in our RFP process. So essentially providing, more points or something in the bidding process so that we have more companies that have union labor that are providing city services. And this is a benefit to the city because then we, we pay for providing support when folks are living in poverty. So it's really, I think, a broad win for us as a city to take that type of step. I appreciate the timing concern that was addressed by the SEIU team. And, it's awkward. We did not adopt a budget that included the additional funding for that amendment. But I understand that the security guard contract is being reviewed in July. And so I also think with urgency, I'm wondering if we can limit the time that we award the next contract so that we're not committing to a 3 or 2 year process for the next contract, so that we have time to do this study and then can have another opportunity to bite at the apple, if you will. Does that make sense? Thank you.
You're heard. Okay, Ms. Jones, do you have any questions or concerns? No. I think the message that we want to be clear about in regards to this paper is that, and I'm hoping that the outcome or what we have asked for, the outcome to be from the administration is that moving forward, any contracted services that we procure, that the city's minimum wage is a part of that contract, period. This research that we are asking the administration to come back with to us with will give us a budget. It will tell us how much it's going to cost. But we are certainly not expecting a report from the administration that says we can't afford it. We have also asked the administration that we feel very strongly about minimum wage being paid. City dollars, either employees all contract services is the policy of the city is to pay the minimum wage is what we are looking for. And so with that, we are looking for the data, the report to tell us exactly what it's going to cost us, what alternatives we can consider, even whether or not there would be an option to reduce the level of contract employees that we hire and increase the actual employees of the city of Richmond, which would be more ideal for me because they would be entitled to all of the benefits that the city offer our employees. However, what we will get back from the administration would give us a detailed report on how many employees we contract, what's the current rate wages that is being paid, what's the difference in the costs at the minimum wage, and that is the minimum wage at the time of contract, because our minimum wage could change in years to come. And that we will get that information back from the administration in time to ensure that our budget is inclusive of those dollars when we receive the budget from the mayor in the next fiscal year. So that's the outcome that we're looking for. And that has been made very clear, and hopefully this legislation makes this clear. And if there is anything different than that, we would expect that the administration would notify us early along so that any other changes or additional ordinances that we would need to put in place to accomplish the mission that is hand, we will have time to do that before the budget. With that, Ms. Gibson, you have another comment that you would like to weigh in on?
Yeah, thank you. I think that if I understood the comments that were made by the workers, there is concern that if the study comes back by November 1st, by that point, we will have adopted a new contract for those security workers. So if there's any way to get clarity on how long these contract periods last for, I think that would be helpful to understand. And then also to see if it is any possible to get this, if we are moving forward with the study, to get it sooner, because otherwise we pretty much negate the benefit of that. So, and I do think, ultimately, if the objective here is to support workers, and if workers are expressing some concerns, I just think it's important for us to listen and see how we can optimize the paper to support that, our shared mission with those workers.
I'm sure that your comments have been heard. We are not, at this point, I don't know that we can say what the procurement needs to be. I mean, we have to, we have to appropriate the dollars for the additional amount, whether it's contracted or whether they are full-time employees. But I hear what you're saying. And from my understanding, hopefully we can limit the duration of the contract. That would be a decision that we will pass on to the administration as a recommendation for them to do. Okay? Motion?
Madam Chair, motion to forward to council for approval.
Do we have a second?
I'm not surprised. Second.
The committee is voting on the motion to forward item 11, resolution 2025 R019 to council with the recommendation to approve. Vice Chair Jones.
Aye.
Chair Robertson.
Aye.
That motion has been approved. Would you like to go back to item 1, or did you?
Don't see Mr. Vincent. Did we reach out to him?
She said no.
She'll take care of it? Okay. Ms. Ebert?
Good afternoon, Chair Robertson, Councilwoman Jones. I'd like to give an update on the Sneed Avenue project. I met with Bobby Vincent last Friday along with DCAO Sabrina Joy Hogg, and we've reached an agreement that sidewalks can be installed and will be installed on Sneed Road between the elementary school and Broadwalk Boulevard. And Mr. Vincent has made a commitment that they will be in place within 3 years. So we're hopeful that this project can move forward.
Chair Robinson, I do have to read the paper into record. Can I proceed with that?
I'm so sorry, Council.
I am very sorry as well because
My
I
apologies.
was glad to see someone ready to address us and we just moved right on. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
To execute a grant agreement between the city, Refuge Apartments, LP, and the EDA for the purpose of facilitating the construction of an affordable housing development at 5015 Sneed Road and 5009 and 5015 Rear Sneed Road. That paper is before the committee.
Okay, Ms. Ebert, would you go back and absolutely affirm that we don't have any reason to question whether or not what you are saying to us is absolutely going to be done? Because I can assure you that Councilwoman Jones doesn't like just word of mouth. She likes to be absolutely certain that we can hold you accountable to what you are saying to us, and I have affirmed you based on what I know of your character and your commitment, as well as Mr. Vincent. But this lady, she negotiated a hard deal, so you got to make sure that she knows that you're going to
I
live
did
up to the
negotiate a
promises.
hard
And
deal.
whether or not they're, I guess the question that I would ask though, is in all seriousness, and that was serious as well, is that people change, things move, there's no documentation that promises will be kept. And this is a valuable project for the city. And I want to thank you all, first of all, for the continual efforts that are being made to bring on these additional affordable housing units in the city, which we desperately need. And I want to thank Councilwoman Jones for your insisting that we put the necessary amendments and infrastructure in place so that we provide safe, decent housing and community. And I want to commend you for that because I'm not sure that we've always been as effective in doing that. And unfortunately, sometimes it takes that level of not settling for what is necessary. And I'm commending you because what you requested is not just something that would be nice to have. This is really a safety issue that it would be a disservice and a total misrepresentation of the city to put that many housing units. And I want to really honor you for that intentional effort that you have put forward with the time and meetings and conversation to get us to this place. So now, Ms. Ebert, we want to make sure that if you're not around and Ms. Jones decided that in 3 years she doesn't know whether or not she wants to do this hard work for the little money that we're paid, that the citizens that move into this facility knows that the city has made a absolute commitment and promise. And if there are stop gates, if you will, whether it's building permits, closing permits, whatever, that we can have in place as a condition, that we can get promises from you guys that they will be required, that this infrastructure is in place as along this process. That may strengthen Councilwoman Jones' willingness to move forward. Ms. Ebert.
Yes, well, I do have Mr. Vincent's commitment to do this. Obviously, putting in sidewalks too early would probably be disruptive as they're building out the site. And I can certainly work with Mr. Vincent to ensure that whatever conditions we can put on for CO would include that the sidewalks have been installed. Welcome. Thank you.
Good job, Ms. Ebert. Next time we need someone to help us through the process, we'll call you early. All right. Ms. Jones, would you like to offer a motion for this paper?
Madam Chair, I motion to move forward to council with approval.
We would need to hold a public hearing.
Oh, I thought that was okay. I'm sorry, Madam Clerk.
Just for
Public hearing.
correction, the item that was read into record was item 1, ordinance 2025-032. And is there anyone here present that would like to speak in support of item 1? Is there anyone here that would like to speak in opposition of item 1? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Bring it back to the committee.
Councilwoman Jones.
Madam Chair, I move that we forward to council for approval.
Want a second?
Second.
Call the question, Madam Clerk.
The committee is voting on the motion to forward item 1, ordinance 2025-032 to council with the recommendation to approve. Ms. Lynch?
Aye.
Vice Chair Jones?
Aye.
Chair Robinson?
Aye.
That motion has been approved.
Madam Clerk, we'll move to the presentation. Ms. Ebert.
Good afternoon again. I would like to request that Acting Director Matt Welch be able to give this presentation. Him and his team have worked very hard over the last 10, 11 months with the economic development staff, and he's put together a great presentation for you, if that's okay.
Thank you, Ms. Ebert.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. And Sharon's obviously here and available for any questions at the end, and is always very helpful. I'm Matt Welch, Acting Director of Economic Development. Thank you for having me here today and inviting me to speak in front of you. We have a pretty broad scope for this presentation, so I'm gonna get started right away. This slide is just kind of a place setter for everything that's been happening since the speed plan was adopted in FY22, some of the bigger numbers for the announcements. But what I really like about the slide, and this is just a subset, is all the different logos for the companies that aren't the big projects that you all think about and hear about. It kind of shows the wide variety that we work with throughout the years. Speaking of the major projects, again, I know we're coming back at one point to do full presentations on some of these, like Diamond District, to really get in the weeds. So again, just kind of setting the stage and telling the story that there's a lot happening in Richmond right now. It's a very exciting time. A lot to do to keep building off the momentum and make sure no one's left behind. But we really have a lot happening with CoStar. The 460 million, almost 2,000 jobs coming out of the skyline. We all know about the amphitheater about to open up in 2 weeks and just activate the river even more. Halion is a $54 million investment in an R&D facility that already existed that's going to really modernize and expand it, and is an important thing for our life sciences ecosystem. And we all know the Diamond District is well underway and on track. So now I'm going to jump more into the statistics and show you, on paper with the numbers, what's happening. So what this shows is unpredictability. When major events happen, there's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. So what you see here is the pandemic hit, and we saw a major drop in our private sector employment from that 2019 to 2020 range. But it also shows our resiliency. So we have now, after a big dip in years it took to get back to where we were. We're now about 7,800 private sector, so this doesn't include any government jobs, above where we were in 2019. And the weekly average sector private wage is up 25%. Obviously, there's been inflation in the same time, but it's still a good jump. Similarly, on this stage, this shows how all our activity, all of our businesses, how they contribute to our revenues and things we are using in your budgeting, in your cycle. So the consumption taxes on the right, so we're talking about emissions tax, transit occupancy, meals tax, and then also the sales and use. I think, again, tells that same story that when there's unpredictability, a major event like a pandemic happens, or right now with tariffs, you never know. You see a big dip there in revenues, well below, I imagine, what was projected at the time. But it also shows our resiliency. We have come back very strongly since that big dip in 2020 and 2021. So that's the story there. So this talks about our actual development growth and our taxable real estate. So I think you guys you've been through the last few months, so you know real estate taxes are by far our biggest revenue generator. So what you'll see there on the right is how much we have grown our just commercial land value, taxable commercial real estate. So this includes multifamily residential, all retail and office and industrial. It does not include your single family residential throughout the city. So this is just a subset of the overall taxable real estate base, which you can see from the chart as well. The biggest jump right there in the blue is multifamily, much smaller jumps in the commercial, retail and office, and in the industrial. And on the left, you can see it in raw numbers, right? We had 7,400, give or take, units completed since 2021, and we have 4,400 residential units under construction right now. Retail, 228,000, 73 now. Industrial, that's a big number, that 1.5 million. It's exciting, it's a good thing, but that was basically one project near the port and it filled up quickly. So the number on the right being 0 shows you that we do lack good industrial sites, good sites for redevelopment that go to Chesterfield, Henrico, Hanover. So that's why that number's behind. The office numbers look great as well, but I'll note the under construction is mostly CoStar. That's such a big project that it really moves the needle on those numbers. So we've been asked a lot about our economic development performance grants. So the next few slides, I'm going to talk about those agreements. And again, when we're talking about performance grants in this situation, we are talking about mostly the bigger projects that have come in front of you. It's actually a small subset of what we do, what we announce on the economic development, the smaller projects we work with through existing by right programs and things of that nature. So these are usually ones where we're using one of our dollars to match a state dollar so we can double up the value of it. And wherever possible, and it's usually up to the state that we work with, if the potential business, the potential development already qualifies for a by right city program, so our CARE, our enterprise zone, the fact we have a BPOL exemption, the commercial tax rebate program, that they would qualify for and get anyways. We often use that as our match, so we're actually not out any dollars in order to match and get the state money involved to land the project. All right, so this is just a quick overview of some of the most recent ones that are still active, that we're closing out, that were completed over the last few years as far as their payouts ending, and a few that were canceled, which just means the company, for whatever reason, decided not to move forward. And so no incentives were ever paid, no payments were ever made, and they didn't move forward. So active can mean two things. It's the project completed, but we're still in the performance period. So you'll see the whole street project in Gateway Plaza, they're still getting money that's in your budget each year to pay back those promises of incentives. CoStar and the amphitheater are under construction, so no payments have begun, and I don't believe any are expected until FY27. So they will be coming in the future. The closeout in process means this is the last year we expect to make a payment once they've provided all of their proper documentation and things of that nature. And so the next slide, I think, tells a good story about, and it's just a snapshot, about how these projects can lead to more revenues for the city. So what this shows here is just 22 to 25, those projects we showed as active, or one that's complete but has an ongoing lease agreement. And for just the real estate, we're not even including all the other types of taxes. For about 2 million in incentives paid the last 3 years, we got about 9.7 million in incremental real estate taxes above where that property started before its project started. So just those alone is a $7.65 million bump. One thing we are working on, I think we've been asked for two things over the last couple of months, is kind of a report that shows all those active projects I just talked about or the recently closed out. And then we are also working on, that we should have in the coming weeks, something that goes a little deeper back to 10, 12 years or so, to hit some of the bigger projects. Record keeping has evolved over the years in that department, so we got to dig into the numbers a little bit to make sure we're getting you accurate information. In the future, we just revamped or in the process of revamping our Salesforce system, so that we'll have better, easily, better data to be able to provide the public quickly on those. But we're working on both those reports for you. Okay, so looking forward, what's been happening? What are we going to be working on? The biggest key on the first couple slides here is there is a lot of uncertainty right now, not just here in Richmond, but across the market, everybody we talk to throughout the state, throughout the country. A lot of businesses are just currently not sure if they should make any big decisions because of tariffs, because of interest rates, because of potential recession. There are people who are getting entitlements, getting teed up, but it's less sometimes the actual things like a tariff than it is the uncertainty and the ever-changing market is what we've been hearing. So it's just a lot of pausing right now. For Richmond specifically, over the last couple of years since the pandemic, your big office projects have not been as common. In fact, CoStar is a very rare thing to be happening right now in the country, and it's a great thing for us as far as the revenues it will bring, the jobs, and also the activation of the riverfront. But what we hear when we're out there is when it comes to those types of projects that are available, we have a pretty good vacancy rate in Richmond right now. We're at 8%. I was just doing a presentation with Plan RVA earlier today with some cohort similar sized cities, and they were at 11, 12, 13. But when you dig into the numbers, we do not have a lot of that Class A quality office space that's available for rent, and that's what companies are looking for right now. Most of the Class A we have is something like the New Dominion Tower, something like CoStar will be, which have a single user and are not available for other companies to come in and take. And as I mentioned earlier, the biggest market the last few years has been more manufacturing type projects, light manufacturing, and we don't often have the sites that are big enough to qualify for that, so they don't even come knock on our door. We have seen an increase in getting RFIs now that we bought the Altria site, which we'll talk about a little bit later, that might put us in play for some things we wouldn't have been in the past. But that's kind of some of our challenges right now as a city and with the changing market as well. So when it comes to predicting the future, it's a little murkier today than it was even the last couple of years. So what do we do about it, right? Obviously, one thing we do is go out and sell Richmond as best we can. So this is just a quick snapshot of some of the things, places we've been, things we've done. Select USA, I think that picture might actually be last year, but it was actually just last weekend. It's one of the biggest conferences for site selectors, I believe, in the world. Over 100 international markets were there, 5,000 attendees. So we were there along with people like GRP, the Greater Richmond Partnership, BDP, and meeting with as many companies as we can and trying to sell our brand. When the FAM tours come in, that's one we're doing actually right now. GRP is hosting a FAM tour. We have another one this summer. That is pulling in site selectors from across the country to try to get to Richmond to show them all the great things about Richmond. I think in the national market, other than some things, of our history, et cetera, sometimes we're not on the radar for people and businesses across the country and the world. We're doing better with marketing. Our Richmond Region Tourism does fantastic with marketing. But one way to get our name out there is to get the people the companies call to help them find a site to town, because we know once people get to Richmond, they fall in love. And so that's why we do those FAM tours. So the other half of what we do, I talked about how we're not all about big projects, is we have a lot of small business grant programs, a lot of small business support. So over the last year, we've done a few things. We kind of realigned our staff to have a little bit more of a structure of kind of business attraction and retention on one side and program administration on the other, and it's leads to a lot more efficiency, a lot more interaction with the business community, which we've really tried to expand our scope as far as how many people know we exist. I was at a 9th District meeting last week with Councilwoman Jones. I've said this recently. We come close, but we often do not use every dollar available in our enterprise zone and care programs. And when we do, it's often a lot of the same applicants, which is good because they're doing good things out there. But to me, it bothers me more when somebody doesn't know to call us than it does when they call and we just don't happen to have a program they qualify for. I imagine throughout the city, there are businesses that we haven't touched, we haven't knocked on their door yet, and they just don't know to call. We could have helped them and maybe gotten them through a hard time, kept them open. So we are trying to spread the word as much as possible. We're trying to partner more with local organizations. The unfortunate event with the water outage actually led to some even stronger partnerships as we partnered with MBL and with Bridging Virginia and the private corporate donors to kind of pull that $500,000 together. MBL and Bridging Virginia, who you can see Melody and Floyd in the picture, have been fantastic. They're able to get resources out faster than we can because they've already got the program set up. They can roll out applications. So it's really been a great partnership there. Another big focus we've had over the last year and we expect to continue is focusing on our corridors. I think Sharon's probably one of the bigger proponents of this. Sorry, my mic. Okay. We are a city of neighborhoods. We're a city with a lot of great historic corridors and a lot that have been neglected or we have not focused on enough. So we really want to thrive our main streets, our corridors. We have Allison Beatty joined the team to focus almost exclusively on corridors and is doing a great job. We're looking into things like the Main Street program. We're very collaborative with PDR as they're working on the code refresh. I know Katie, my deputy, is sorry, I'm going back in and out. Katie's chairing one of their committees, talking about the economy, and they had a great meeting on Monday with folks coming in, stakeholders, providing a lot of data there. Two other big things we're working on in the CARE program. So last year we made a change to the CARE program that allowed us to do 100% reimbursement for money spent on certain security features, because that was a big thing we were hearing out there. This year, when we bring you your CARE agreement in early July, next fiscal year, we are going to add some things about private placemaking, beautification, things that can really help with those commercial corridors and enhance the appeal. And then on the enterprise zone program, we have not updated that, I don't think, since it was adopted in, I don't have the year in front of me, but it's been at least a couple of decades. So we have been in a long process working with a consultant, pulling a lot of data about where the boundaries should be. And honestly, we're going to be able to expand the boundaries because we had a lot of enterprise zone boundaries and acreage. There's a limited you can have that's on institutional land, like the Science Museum, for example. All that acreage we can pull out because it's not usable anyway for a government donor, and we can put it somewhere else throughout our corridors. So sometime in probably Q1 of next fiscal year, we're going to be coming to you guys and we'll sit down with you each probably individually first with our suggestions for how we can change both the boundaries for enterprise zone, but how we can really maximize those incentives to really help the businesses that need it and really spur more retail development. One of those big corridors we're talking about, and we all see it every day, is Broad Street. The presentation I did earlier today was Brookings Institute actually came and specifically looked at this same corridor. I believe they went 9th and Broad to Belvedere, but a lot of great statistics there that I can provide that they really dug in on. We partnered with Chamber RVA and with Venture Richmond on that. You can see the picture on the right. One of those holes along that corridor, Broad Street's being filled by Virginia Public Media, which is just a game changer. And we're so thankful to Jamie, not just for putting their project there, but every time she talks about it, she talks about how important it was for them to be downtown and how important it is to be in the heart of the city. And you can see the quote there. So just a lot of support coming from that community, and we're digging in as well. So business walks, getting out in the community. We've been working very closely with the police department and Venture on public safety. Ventures stepped up and brought more support for mental health services to the unhoused in the area. And we're working with Maggie Walker and those folks to really add some good features to the Maggie Walker Plaza for beautification. And I will end here just to talk about a couple of the bigger real estate type things we'll be working on this year. The intermediate terminal building will be, the EDA owns that property from back in the original Stone deal, and we'll be doing an RFP that should go out in the next month, but in no case after the end of June. We've had a lot of interest. We've gotten calls from people with all kinds of potential uses. We want to make sure we focus on utilizing that building for, a good economic use, but more importantly, for something that helps with the capital trail and the synergy and the feeling. We're going to be very conscious about the type of use that goes there and make sure it fits in with all the great things happening down there with the public open space and with the trail. Philip Morris site I mentioned earlier, the city purchased that earlier this year after being approved by council last year. This site is a very unique site for us as a city to have available because of its location, size. It's on the interstate, it's near the port. It has a lot of potential to put us in play for some projects we wouldn't be in the past, but and it has the 47 acres of parkland. But the first step there is operations teams are working on getting the site ready, demolishing the building, abatement. From our side, we've been working with VEDP to see if we can identify state resources to help with that process. And we are about to put out a request for a few quotes for a market study to kind of help us inform what's the best use there, what kind of amenities, what kind of community benefits make a lot of sense there. So that is kind of, we're in the planning stage, but we have already, on my team, gotten multiple RFIs simply because we own the site. So it certainly put us on the radar for things that your GRPs and your VDPs didn't even usually send our way because we just didn't have the sites available. So that is the end of the presentation. I kind of ran through it because I imagine you'll have some questions.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. One of the challenges that the city is dealing with consistently and have been for quite some time is the strong dependency on our revenue being based on our residential housing, and a means by which we are strategically diversifying the sources of our revenue to be able to not have such a strong dependency on residential real estate taxes. Tell me how and what you have presented can you, if you were do your elevator speech, as they say, help me understand why what we are doing and from economic development in the city of Richmond is hitting all of the cylinders that we need to hit, all of the key indicators and businesses that we need to target in order to expand. Do we have goals? Do we have benchmarks of where we want to generate revenue? And do we have, I'm not sure when I hear the presentation that I could walk away and say, I know what Richmond's economic development plan is. And our goal is in the next 5 years, we're going to have reached this benchmark or this benchmark. I'm not sure if I can say that I know how much land we have in inventory that we have earmarked for key development initiatives and what type of development we are looking for to generate a certain level of growth in that area. So help me be able to walk out of here if I'm being interviewed by the media, that I can clearly articulate what is economic development strategy and what we're striving to reach as it relates to a revenue goal.
Sure. I'm trying to capture every piece of that question, right? I think when it comes to indicators, we're still working under the council approved speed plan, which took us from FY22 to 27. We're already in the process of talking through, looking into the plan, whether to update it or, do a new plan as that rolls out. I can't give you all the numbers off my top of my head, but for example, I think it was 3,000 announced jobs, $3 billion in capital investment. We've already cleared some of those numbers. It's $25 million in increased real estate tax value or annual revenues from commercial development, and we're on track for that, I believe, as well. Poverty reduction by 5%, which is a stat that we don't directly touch, but is important to show that what we're doing is helping the community. So we are under all of those goals, and we have a whole series of metrics. I'm happy to come back and present with very specifics on those. We were kind of asked to do a very broad overview here. So, but as far as our strategy, right, I think I went into it. We are a city that has a lot of knowledge work. Office space is our biggest strength due to the fact we do not have a lot of big sites, and some of those things have not been your biggest movers in the last few years. And that's why we've been focused on getting the city out there marketing. We brought in a CoStar, which is just a massive project. We got an Altria site so that we can compete in the manufacturing world. The ITB building is a smaller example. We've got the downtown redevelopment things happening, which we will do. We do constantly sharing. We do inventory of sites for where can we maybe put affordable housing, where can we do commercial development. Kind of hard for me to go over my entire list of things we do, but at the end of the day, I think from how are we producing revenues, that's why we do the snapshot of the last 3 years and the $7 million gain just in real estate taxes from some of these incentives we've given out. The land book value from 21 in the commercial area from 11.5 billion taxable to 16.6 billion taxable. That's why we kind of showed those numbers to show you how we are and have been increasing the revenues to the city.
I think you asked some very good questions in terms of benchmarks and goals. Clearly, when we analyzed the Diamond District project and we were doing projections and revenues, MuniCap was helping us with those projections. We were able to show that even with just phase one, if the developer completes the work, the private investment work, that we'll have enough revenues generated to not only pay back the debt of the stadium, which the city was generous enough to issue GO bonds, but also have enough money beyond that to go into the general fund. I think it was like 2 times from the projections that Davenport provided us, and I can go back and get you that information. I think the most important thing that I see, and I will sit down with our advisors, one of the reasons we've hired the Robert Bob Group and that we have the $2 million grant from the Build America Bureau is to look at our downtown assets. And as we started with the city center and we put out the first solicitation request for interest, we were finding that the development community was not willing to absorb a lot of the public infrastructure costs. And as you know, we've been working with Capstone for the last several months. I am prepared to come before council at the next council meeting. I've asked Council President Newbill for a closed door session to bring everybody on council up to date with those negotiations. We can definitely come up with what our goals are, but part of that study, that financial analysis, is to look at all of the real estate that the city owns. And we own approximately, I think, 8 blocks in downtown that are currently providing 0 revenue. And so we can definitely do some takeoffs. We have a lot of information from the development community that provided us with revenues. What we're trying to do is not use those revenues to support the public infrastructure that needs to be put back, whether that's streets or new public spaces or parking. But we want the private development communities to absorb those costs. So those revenues would flow into the general fund. That will definitely take more analysis for us to be able to come back to you, but that's our number one goal, is to be able to put all of the real estate that is not needed by the city back onto the private rolls. That's what we tried to do with the public safety building. As far as I'm concerned, that property is still in play. As you know, we're working with the Department of Social Services to relocate them later this year. That will free up the Marshall Street Plaza site for redevelopment. But we also need to find out what we're going to do with the courts, which we definitely have to build a new courts building or renovate something for the courts. So there's two options there that we're looking at in terms of cost effectiveness. But it's a big request, let me put it that way, and it's not something that either I or Matt can come up with without doing analysis. We'd love to come back to you and be able to give you those projections and be able to say in confidence that this is where we should be 5 years from now, especially with commercial growth. I also say that in addition to City Center and the Altria site, which we're just starting to look at, along with the rezoning that the planning department is doing between Hull Street, Richmond Highway, and Midlothian, there are hundreds of millions of dollars that we should be able to upzone and get new commercial development happening in those corridors. That is another analysis that we have not started yet, but that we can. So we have lots of places across the city that we can look at, and I would ask for some more time to be able to do a more detailed analysis on those areas.
Thank you, Ms. Ebert. Yeah, I think that's really what we are looking for. We are really looking at, understanding our strategy. We spent a long time putting together an economic development strategy. We also want to make sure that going forward, any plans that we invest in, that we have particular measurable objectives within those plans, and that we are reporting on the success of whether or not we're doing what's in the plan or not doing what is in the plan. We've been doing the redevelopment of downtown for the entire 20-some years that I've been on city council and before I came on city council, and it still looks pretty much the same. Jefferson Davis, Route 1 now, Highway 1, opportunities for growth and development in the city. We look at vacant land. I mean, we talk about what is the vacant office complexes downtown. And those are all grand opportunities. I mean, we have our restrictions. We know we have our restriction, but we have a large volume of land and inventory of vacancies that we are left with a lack of sense of what we are doing to make that move. So we have a master plan that we just finished. It's 5 years old. It identified 7 or 8 primary nodes for economic growth and development. When I asked for an economic development report, I want the report to say these are target zones that we have agreed to, that you've adopted in a master plan. This is what's going on there. This is where we plan to be next year. And then I expect that your department, because when I look at our budget every year, it doesn't appear to me that economic development is a priority. Number one, it's not well funded. Number two, there are very limited staff there. When I look at housing and community development staff and department, and I look at comparatively looking at other departments and how well they are funded, some of your departments are funded the same as departments that will never generate $1 of revenue for the city of Richmond. And I think our priorities are out of order. And I think they will remain out of order unless we make obligations and commitments to economic growth and development that we want to stand by. We put just as much money in the regional consortium that goes out and recruit jobs to come to this city as any of the other partners. But they will tell you every day they get the same check from Henrico, same check from Richmond, same check from Chesterfield, but the places that grow business out of that budget is not Richmond. Richmond is the last one on the totem pole. And the other thing that, we struggle with, we talk about reducing poverty in the city of Richmond. If the only incentivized businesses that we're going to bring to this city, corporate America that starts off with people with PhDs or the equivalent of such, we're never going to take care of our middle income families that are looking for jobs that want to afford to live in the city of Richmond. And I want to see our economic development plan of action be intentional for accomplishing those kinds of goals and objectives. We're in it together. This is not beat up on you guys. You're not delivering what we need. That's not what this is about. This is about a session for us to strategically think through what we need to do so that this council and our delivery to the administration says, don't bring us a budget. I mean, it's wonderful for us to put in this paper that we just adopted to take care of contract workers and minimum wages, right? But at $20 an hour, none of those people likely can afford to live in the city of Richmond. Okay, so that's great, but it's not accomplishing the mission that is at hand. And if our economic development office isn't funded better, isn't staffed better, we're not going to grow. We'll make some efforts, right? But we've got too much vacant land, too many empty buildings that are already built for us to not put more energy into investing in economic development and housing and community development that generates the revenue and businesses that generate the revenue for this city. And our fiscal risk is one of the highest, if not in the region, in the state. We are not going to be able to survive and provide the essential services that are needed if we do not invest more money. And it's going to be a sacrifice. It may mean that some of the things that we want to do right now we can't do, but if we're doing something that's going to grow the revenue, then we'll be able to do some of the other things that needs to be done. And so I appreciate the report, guys, but what I'm asking you for is something altogether different. I'm not asking you to tell me what's active, what isn't active. I'm asking you to tell me how strategically we're going to get out of this bind of constantly fighting against making living affordable in the city of Richmond a reality, because at some point we're pricing ourselves out, and we do not want to become a city that if you can't afford to live in a $500,000 home, you don't live in the city of Richmond. That's not the Richmond that we want to be. That's not the Richmond that our master plan says that we're going to be. And so that's really what I'm asking for. And so I'm going to ask Mr. Perkins, we'll do a retake on this report because we need to get closer to what we're looking for. Okay?
Happy to do it. And what I would say is I would love to find time to sit down with you as we lead up to that to make sure we are checking the boxes. got you the information we thought you wanted, but we're happy to do that.
And what I would make sure that we're doing, Mr. Perkins, is that we work with both of you guys and anyone else you want to bring to the table, Mr. Bob, whatever. Let's identify what things we want in our economic development report. What do we want to report on? What are we looking for specific in that report? So we know that we are asking for, and you guys agree, because you got information that you can bring to the table that would make this whole thing work better for us. And we know exactly what the presentation in the report is going to look like, okay? And that you know that we are here to work as a partner to ensure that when the budget comes to us, we're going to be looking for, expecting, and willing to support more money in the departments that generate revenue for the city of Richmond as well. Ms. Lynch?
Just a question. So on the Altria site, that was $10 million, correct? We purchased that land. The Altria site, that was a $10 million purchase.
5.5 million of the 10 million that was set aside for key acquisitions. So we still have 4.5 million available for other key acquisitions. In Southside, yes, I'm sorry, it was limited to south, any place south in Southside. And then we have another 1.75 million that I think was appropriated the year before for acquisitions, key acquisitions.
Okay. And the Altria site, that's yet another project going to Parks and Rec, not generating any revenue.
So there's about 40 to 45 acres that are wetlands. Chris and I took a preliminary look at it. The rest is available for development, and as Matt has said, we're getting ready to do a market analysis to look at that land. I think it has a lot of potential to be a lot of different things that will generate revenue, and we want to make sure that we're getting the best and highest use out of that land. That land has been available for many, many years and never sold. I think, some of the offers that I see coming in are for, warehouses and small business parks. That is not going to generate the revenue or the vision that I have for the property. But I need to do a market analysis before we can start to really share what we think we can achieve on about 50 acres of the 96 acres. So it's still a large parcel of land. And I thank you for your support, and I understand your request. And if you would give us a little bit of time, we can come back and definitely be able to project what we think we can achieve, say, in the next 5 years.
Thank you very much. Appreciate all of your hard work, and I know that you working 24/7 almost, and you're doing a great job. But we do want to be more strategic in our thinking going forward and putting adequate staffing and resources in place to do the necessary market analysis and all of those kinds of things that are necessary to attract businesses to the city that we need. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anything else, Madam Clerk, on this agenda?
No, ma'am, that concludes the items on today's agenda.
Mr. Perkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Will Perkins, staff for the committee. I'll just do a very quick recap of the action items that we captured in today's meeting and then a preview of our meeting next month. So what we recorded again is primarily related to economic development. We'll make sure we follow up with them and schedule an additional meeting and presentation, as well as more in line with the request today. Speaking of next month, so your next meeting for this committee is on Wednesday, June 18th. We had previously scheduled 2 presentations, one from finance about risk management and settlements, and the second from the Minority Business Development Organization on a follow-up of their disparity study. So we will also tack on another touch of this topic. And again, on the disparity study, there'll be inclusion of implementation of the recommendations as well. I should be clear on that. Thank you, ma'am.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you.